Welcome to the E&S Hoover Show. I have Pittsburgh business legend Jim Shorkey here with me. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I appreciate the offer. I'm overjoyed. I really am. I'm glad to be here.
I'm overjoyed that you're here, and it was so easy to connect with you and get you here, and that just shows how grateful you are as a person and how great you are to deal with. And so I want to say, what a great day.
What a great day.
Yeah, that's your slogan, right?
It is. Yeah. That's an interesting story. So I was big time into the self-development field, self-help, self-improvement, getting better, but only within the automobile business realm. And I was listening to Zig Ziglar at the time, and he said, you need to be different. You need to say something different. And so I got the idea of What a Great Day from Zig Ziglar. And so I started answering the phone that way, like, what a great day, this is Jim Shorkey. Just me against the world, right? What a great day, this is Jim Shorkey speaking. Or Jim Shorkey Jr., I should say. And so back in 2004, we decided to take the dealership a different direction relative to advertising. And so my dad's advertising agent, Frank Marmion, who we had parted ways around the time when I was bankruptcy imminent at the dealership. And I was just cutting expenses. So Frank and I parted ways, and good friend, love that guy. And so I called him in 2004 and said, hey, I'm looking to change directions, and do you want to hook up? So he comes in and he says, Jim, he says, I always like the way you answer the phone. I thought that was really, really cool. What a great day, right? And he said, I think we can make an advertising approach out of that. And so that was the genesis of What a Great Day in terms of advertising. And so Frank we had a jingle, we had the moniker that you see, What a Great Day, and all that is carried on. And so the idea is to really, really make it a great day, whether I'm talking to you, or I'm talking to the ladies in the office here, or I'm talking to a client at the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, or no matter where it's at, it's a great day, And I think Zig Ziglar might have even said this, try missing one, So it is a great day, it really is. No matter what, COVID-19, recessions, political stuff, it's a great day. For me, today, driving here is a joy for me, and it's a great day, and I'm so happy and grateful to be here on this great day.
Well, it's a great day for me too. I've been talking about this ever since you said you'd come on and do it. My wife is probably getting sick of hearing about it. Before we get too into business, I'm a car guy. My partner's a car guy as well. What's your favorite car?
Well, I have a variety of different ideas about that. I would say probably my favorite car, I have a 1957 Ford Fairlane 500.
Oh, wow.
My grandfather had that car. It was in 1957. And so this is not his car, but he had it. And I can remember as a little boy, him pulling up to the house, and it was my grandpap, right? Grandpap was here, and I was always so excited about that. And I loved that car. My grandfather had a stroke, and so my father and mother took the car off of him. He couldn't drive anymore. So the car was parked up at the dealership for years and years and years and years. And, I should say years, maybe 4 or 5 years, whatever. And so I'm a young guy, and I would go up to the dealership with my dad, and I would literally sit in that car and drive it and dream my dreams, right? And I always loved that car, and it sat there for years. And so my parents gave me that car as a graduation present when I graduated from high school. This was my first car. And they presented it to me in the form of the old plastic models, which I have. That got disposed of, but I actually went online and bought that actual box. I have it at home as a reminder. So my parents gave me the car, and my dad had it checked out the next day at the dealership to make sure it was safe. And it turns out it had a hole in the frame, and back in those days, holes in the frame meant car's no good, get rid of it. And so that car was gone, and an hour later, and I ended up with a 1967 Chevy Impala convertible, young kid doing pretty well. But I always had this idea of getting that car back, and so. But it was a goal. We talked about goals. It was a goal, but I kept always moving from I'll get the car once I do this, and then I would get that done. I'll get the car, and so my wife Amy, probably got tired of hearing that. Right, you're always putting this off on the kids as well, and so they actually bought that car for me, and I have it now. It's a 1957 Ford Fairlane 500. So that would, without a doubt, would be my favorite car all time. More for emotional reasons than structural reasons. I love the car, but it was my grandfather's car.
Sentimental value.
Sentimental value, yeah. So powerful. The car, it's old school, no air. It definitely doesn't stop on a dime. It doesn't. You're not going to take a bend too aggressively. It's just an old car, but I get out there and drive it, and I think my thoughts, and no radio, no air conditioning, and so yeah, that's my all-time favorite car. Long answer to a short question.
Yeah, I'm currently my all-time favorite car is probably an Aston Martin.
Oh, that's the
but
rule.
I don't know if I'll ever drive
That's
one
the
just
rule
because of
deal.
the sticker on them. So I currently have a Jaguar and I absolutely love it. It's like
What year is that?
it's a 21. I just got it.
Oh wow!
It's an F
Beautiful car,
type.
yeah.
It's so much fun. Just a lot of fun to drive. And then I have my truck, which is my daily driver, which you probably saw when you were walking in.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into your adversity, because that's your story is one of the most amazing stories I've read. You should have like a movie. I love business movies. I do. Like the Founder, which is the McDonald's story.
Mm-hmm.
I love all those types of movies. They should have like a docudrama movie off of you. So if anybody's listening, let's do that. Let's make that happen. But you grew from like when you took over the dealership, you had one dealership.
Correct.
And then currently they have 9 dealerships. Is that correct?
Well, it's so we actually have 2 dealerships in Uniontown, and I was the founder of those 2 dealerships. One is Mitsubishi, one is Kia, and it's actually 2 separate buildings. It's a campus, kind of like the Cochrane Mega Complex, only it's not mega. It's a small campus, but nevertheless, it is a campus, about 7 acres, I would guess. And there's 2 dealerships there, and I always counted that as 2. My kids counted it as 1 because they've got it. They're running it with one group per se, but it actually is. It's 2 legit buildings. So with me, it was my dad's dealership, and then we from there we got the Kia dealership. We have a Ford dealership in White Oak. We have a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram truck dealership in North Langton as well. So Kia, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram truck, and the original dealership is 3 plus the Ford dealership in White Oak would be 4, and then the 2 in Uniontown would be 6. Is how I looked at it, but they look at it as being 5 dealerships. So let's assume they're right, and that's 5. From there, they developed 3 dealerships in the North Hills. One being Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram truck, the other one being Kia, and the other one being Mitsubishi. These are all standalone, fully staffed, separate dealerships. So that would take it up to 8. They just bought 2 Chevrolet dealerships, which would take it to 10, and they have a dealership in Youngstown, Ohio, which is also a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram truck dealership, which would take it to 11. And so, but what they've done is they've taken the volume at each dealership and grown that as well. The service, parts, body shop business, all that's grown. And I would say, without exaggerating, that they have taken it and increased this. They've made the business bigger by 3x, maybe even 4x. And so they're really, really smart, talented kids. People ask me, well, why did you get out? It was time, because they deserved their chance. I really believe that, right? And each one of them, there's 4 children, and each one of them is smarter than I am. And I don't say that to be self-deprecating. They really are smarter than I am. And there's 4 of them. And so I could sense, I'm a manipulator. I'm a kind of a type A kind of guy, finger in all the holes in the dike, so to speak. And I get a sense that they were not really appreciating my finagling of things, right? And so I could see that, and I said, it's time for me to move on. And gratefully so, because I have a great life as well. The car business, definitely, it's a busy business, to be frank. And so they're doing a great job, and it was time. So if that answers your question.
From 1 dealership to 6, then when you stepped down.
Well, and let's just say 5.
5.
Yeah.
Let's say 5. Did you do that mostly like bootstrapping it, or did you acquire capital to? No,
it was all. There was no capital. No, I mean, I generated capital and just was always maneuvering that capital, and we had property loans, so that was definitely borrowing of money, but what I had to do was to develop this cash. And that was the story of bankruptcy imminent to moving forward. So we had no cash, and we developed the cash. I figured out how to do that, and then I just kept, I held the money. I didn't spend it. If you want to be rich, you can't spend the money. Can't. You can't spend it. And actually, what you should be doing is really cutting. The advice would be, make your income bigger, make your outgo lower. And then take that difference, and really you should be paying down debt. Get yourself more liquid, developing a certain day supply of cash, so that when something does happen bad, you're able to survive. And So I did that. I did exactly that advice, which I was given by what I call expert counsel. I developed a lot of cash, and my children continue to do that. So if they want to go take advantage of an opportunity, they can self-fund that opportunity if they want to. They do borrow money just as just because they can, but they don't have to.
Well, the interest rate's so low right now.
Exactly,
It's a good time to borrow money.
It is. It really is. Yeah. So they're taking advantage of that, but you still want to have that cash, because where it gets to be a little really sketchy and a slippery slope is that because the money's so cheap, it's like, well, it's I'm okay, but you still got to pay it back no matter what the interest rate is. And if the bank decides to look at your financials and determine that you're not a very stable business based on your, for example, day supply of cash, then they can call those loans. And so if that happens, you're done. So you want to make sure that you do both borrow the money, but then be in a position to, if they call it, that you're not going to be crippled. So cash is king. Cash is always going to be king in business, and so many people don't understand that.
Yeah, it's all about raising money now. That's the new fad, is raising money.
Yeah, but you know what? You can raise money on your own. I don't care if you're making $7.15 an hour. You can raise money, and the way that I would tell anybody to do that is, first of all, you got to take the job. People are so often saying, "I'm not going to work for $7.15 an hour," or whatever it is, whatever the minimum wage is. And I say, why not? Why wouldn't you? Because it's just a number, right? This is the number right here. So what can I do to make the number bigger? Well, bring more value to the hour. So if I'm making $7.15 an hour, this guy right here, I'm bringing $15 worth of value to the hour. Just imagine this. You're a business guy, right? Mm-hmm. So you hire me to clean the offices, right? And these offices have never been so clean. The garbage cans have never been so empty. The toilets are the cleanest they've ever been. Everything is just perfect because I'm bringing more value to the hour. And so I will get noticed either by you or by one of your competitors. And either you'll say, hey, this guy's doing a great job. Let's give him a raise. Now I'm at $9 an hour, or somebody else will do the same. Also, when you recognize the value that I'm bringing to the hour, you might say, you know what, this guy, there's something about this guy, boy, the way he operates, I think he might make a good real estate agent. We should maybe think about that, right? And so you start talking and say, okay, I'll learn. I'll still do the janitorial work. But I'll work on this idea because I'm that kind of guy, right? And so next thing you know, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm making whatever these folks make. I would suspect that a really good one probably makes $100,000 a year. So how did I get from $715 to $100,000 a year? By number one, taking the job, and by number two, making myself as big as I possibly can on the job by bringing more value to the hour. And that is a definite strategy that our young people are missing today. Bring more value to the hour. And that's what I did, that's what I do, and that's what I will do going forward. And I will get compensated for it. That's just a fact of life.
I love that. I love the way that you think. I do similar things, maybe not with the thought process in mind, but I just work as hard as I possibly can. And my mentor is now my partner, and I would have never thought that would have been possible.
How'd that happen? Yeah.
Just hard work.
Yeah, exactly. And you got recognized. And so that's the answer. But when you first started here, it wasn't the same level of income for you personally as it was today. I know that. There's no way. And now you're making more money. It's like, and so you'll run into somebody and they see what you've got, what you're doing, and say, oh man, you're so lucky. Really? Lucky? No, I'm a hard worker. And so if we could teach our people to be hard workers, you're not going to stay at $7.15 an hour, whatever that is. It's just a starting point. It's an opportunity to show what you can do. So it troubles me that I see people talking in terms of not working. I have a college degree. Who cares? I don't care about your college degree. I care about I have a job here at $7.15 an hour, and you're choosing not to do that. But in the meantime, you're missing the downstream opportunity of this great job. So just backing up a second. So I'm on the job, $7.15 an hour, busting my butt, bringing more value to the hour, and I do in fact get noticed. And so next thing you know, maybe I'm the assistant manager or whatever. And so that job pays $15 an hour. Now I'm bringing $30 worth of value. Next thing you know, I'm the manager. And maybe at that point I've hit the ceiling, right? But I'm still making whatever, $25 an hour, let's say, but I've hit the ceiling. And so because I'm so good at what I do, is there a possibility that somebody could come in from the outside And let's say I always envision Panera, right? So I'm at this Panera, they come in from the outside, they say, this guy's unbelievable. We could use a guy like this. Hey, do you mind if we have a conversation after work today? Absolutely. So we have this conversation, and I get offered a job, and I'm doing X, Y, Z, and next thing you know, another job comes up, and that's how you progress up, by always bringing more value to the hour. So you don't know what the downstream effect is to that idea of bringing more value to the hour, and you're not going to find out. You know why? Because you turned down the job for $7.15 an hour. You would rather sit home and play video games than get your butt to work and start to show people what you're capable of doing. So, the idea of raising the minimum wage, to me, is just that's not the point. The point is $7.50 an hour is an opportunity. And in order to take advantage of that opportunity, you got to bring more value to the hour. So
I've only known you in person now for about 15, 20 minutes, and I can see why you were so immensely successful. Let's talk about your adversity, because your adversity, I think, was more than the typical business owner. Not that I think we all go through adversity from time to time. But you took over your dad's business.
Correct. And
you kind of thought you knew more than you knew, right?
I did, yeah.
And then you hit a wall. Go ahead and talk about that.
Well, so what happened was, I've said this many, many times, if I was half as smart as I thought I was when my father died, I would have been pretty darn smart. And so my dad died, and I wanted to make the business the biggest it had ever been. I wanted to show my dad what I was capable of doing. So that's what I proceeded to do, and I did, in fact, make it bigger. But the problem with making a business bigger is it takes more cash to run that business. And so my father did die, which was very, very traumatic for all of us in the family, and there was a lot of issues with that. Just sadness, right? And so I proceeded to run my game, and we just ran out of dough. We ended up, as I said, bankruptcy imminent. And what happened was I got a phone call from my sister on a Sunday night, and she said to me, tomorrow morning when we open up the dealership, the bank account's going to be a negative $55,000. So negative $55,000. These are big numbers. So that means checks are going to bounce. And so, needless to say, I didn't sleep that night. I got up in the morning. So I'm a big believer. If I have a problem, meet it head on. Don't run. Meet it head on. So I went directly to the bank. I was on their doorstep. I met with Al Lazar, told him the situation. He assured me that my checks wouldn't bounce. And in my mind at that time, they weren't my checks. They were my dad's checks. And this was his legacy. And so it was very traumatic for me, very sad. I felt like an idiot. I felt like a loser. It was just very upsetting. And so I borrowed $100,000 to get the business back floating again. And then I had to go to work. And by the way, Al Lazar took care of all the checks, made sure that nothing bounced, which was I'm so grateful to Al Lazar for that. But at any rate, I borrowed $100,000, got the business flowing, and then I had to get to work. And so at the time, I started reading very aggressively this book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Written in 1937, he interviewed 500 of the wealthiest people in America over a 25-year span, and basically it was how'd you get to be so successful type of an interview. And so he asked this question of 500 people, in essence, right, just like we're talking right now. And out of that, he found these principles, and there's actually 13 of them. And so the idea is to follow the principles, and you're going to be successful. So in the book, in the chapter on imagination, he tells you to read the book 3 times, cover to cover, before you put it down. It's very, very clear. He says, because then you're not going to want to stop. So, and there's a lot of other instructions in there. Primarily, the primary instruction, for me at least, bankruptcy imminent, was seek expert counsel. Find somebody who's smarter than you and have a conversation. And so I'm bankruptcy imminent. The only guy that really came to my mind as somebody I could trust and have confidence in was Mr. Hamilton, who was my dad's former partner, actually brought my dad into the business, actually gave me my first haircut as a little boy. And so I went to Mr. Hamilton, and I'm humble now, right? And I said, Mr. Hamilton, I said, I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing. I said, I would like to ask you for a list of 10 things that I should be doing to be a successful car dealer. And he called me James. He said, James, he said, let me think about that. He said, come back tomorrow morning, I'll have a list for you. So I go back the next morning, get the list. 10 things typed out, and I started to do those 10 things. And lo and behold, I could see the needle. I could see it start to move. It didn't move it wasn't like I was a millionaire overnight, but it started to move. And so I kept going back to Mr. Hamilton, kept getting more ideas, But I also went to, I talked to Al Lazar at that time it was Urban Trust. Chrysler Financial was the finance arm of Jeep at the time. And they actually brought in an auditing team to audit my books and tell me where I was messed up. and gave me a list, and then they committed to coming back a year later to see how I did with the list. And I could tell they thought, this guy has no chance in the world of making it, right? And I'll tell a little story about that in a second. But anyway, so they gave me a list. GMAC, which was the financial arm of Oldsmobile at the time, they gave me, I'm going to show my age, there were actually VHS tapes along with workbooks on how to run a successful car dealership. All for free. All this stuff I'm telling you was for free. The audit alone was probably a $25,000, $30,000 bill back then. Today it would probably be, 70, 80 grand, right? Did it for free. GMAC was free. I brought in, so I joined think tanks, and that did cost money. I went to training courses. Those cost money. Not a lot of money, but I was educating myself, learning. And then I had to dismiss my dad's accountant, actually, because he just wasn't giving me the information I needed. I should have known some things that I didn't. And so I brought in a new accountant, Tom Eugen, and he was really helpful to me. So it was Mr. Hamilton and Chrysler Financial and GMAC and the think tanks and NADA, which is the National Auto Dealers Association. They have training resources, and then of course one-on-one meetings and whatnot. And so that's what I did. I just kept getting ideas for how to make this business work, and it became incredibly successful. So I was sitting down with Chuck Molina, who is my good friend, who was involved with me with results from taking. He died of liver cancer the day after Thanksgiving this past year, and so miss that guy gravely. But I'm talking to Chuck, and just like yourself, potentially, I could see. I said, Chuck, you don't believe me, do you? You really don't believe me. I can tell. And he says, well, I said, okay. I put the phone on speakerphone. I dialed Tom Eugen's office. I said, hey, Tom, this is Jim Shorkey. I said, I'm on speakerphone, because he was very irreverent. I said, don't use any of your foul language. And he laughed. I said, Tom, when you came aboard back in 1998, 1999, 1998 actually, I said, was I bankruptcy imminent? And he said, he laughed. He says, let me tell you something. You were way beyond that. He said, you were ready to fall off a cliff. He said, you were done. I said, did you think I would be able to overcome that? And he said, no way in hell. Excuse my French, but no way in hell. Nope, not happening. You're not getting out of this mess. Well, I did, because I had a very strong reason why, and that made me cry. And that's the key to goal setting, is to, number one, have a goal, right? But what's your reason why? If your reason why doesn't make you cry, you're probably not going to sustain the approach to the goal. Your reason why is going to make you cry. Sometimes we have the wrong reasons why, and then we just give up. But if you have the right reason why, and it makes you cry, and I believe in two things with respect to goals. Number one, what do you want? And then why do you want it? Does your reason why make you cry? And then number two is, what do you not want? Where do you not want to be? And does your reason why not make you cry? So I believe in both. In the self-development field, you're not allowed to talk about what you don't want. Oh crap, I do. There's things I don't want. And so what can I do to get away from those things? So when I'm moving away from something I don't want, and I'm moving towards something that I do want, I'm going to get there twice as fast with that mentality. So, for example, in my world, this Alzheimer's disease is a real thing. It's a real problem. I think it's something like 5 million people. 5 million people are going to be affected by this disease. I mean, they're going to have this disease, excuse me. When I'm 85 years old, there's a 50% chance that I will have Alzheimer's disease. That's just the national statistic. That's not genetics, that's not Jim Shorkey, that's not any of that. That's the number. And so I have a goal to live to be 122 healthy, happy, terrific years. Where does that goal come from? Well, it's been done. Jean Clamou from France. But in addition to that, because that's a little sketchy perhaps, but right now today, there's a lady from Japan. Her name is Kane Tanaka, Tanaka. She is 118 years old and roughly 6 months on top of that. She's the oldest living person in the world. And so my attitude about goal setting is, well, if she can do it, I can do it, right? So I have this goal, 122. So in order to get to 122, I got to pass through 85, right? Well, if I get Alzheimer's disease, that's not going to be a real pleasant experience for anybody. So I'm on a program of prevent, delay, mitigate. Prevent it means I don't get it. Delay means instead of getting it at 85, I get it at 95. That's a better deal. Not the best, but still a better deal. And then mitigate it means that you and I are both getting Alzheimer's disease, but I don't get it anywhere near as bad as you get it because I drank the green tea. I ate the vegetables and the fruits, and I did all the things right to prevent, delay, mitigate. So that's an example of what I'm talking about with goals. And so people would look at 122 healthy, happy, terrific years and say, "You're crazy, Jim." And I would say, "You're right, I'm crazy. It's a moonshot." But the fact is that there is very strong evidence that it's being done. Is it a common thing? No, it's not. But what the heck, if they can do it, I can do it. I guess more than anything, it's not a question of if they can do it, if they can do it, I can do it. But it is a question of, well, why not try? Why not at least try to do it, right? What's the sense in not even trying? So many people don't even try. And well, I got to die of something. Yeah, well, you're going to prove that. That's true, you are. But you're going to die sooner than need be because you didn't have the right strategy. Just like with the car dealership, I didn't have the right strategy. Once I got the right strategy, I was off to the races. So my play right now is health, because I have so many reasons why that make me cry that I want to be here for a long time. And the oldest, by the way, the oldest living man today is, I think, 112, 113. So these are real numbers. Look it up. There's a lot of people in the world who are living to be beyond 100 years old, living right here in America. But they're not doing the bull crap that we're typically doing as Americans, as far as how we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we mitigate stress. All these different things that I've studied are now part of my purview, if that makes sense.
Wow. Just amazing. I love obviously everybody talks about your why, right? But not many people say you got to have a why that makes you cry.
Well, if it doesn't make you cry, you haven't gone deep enough. So if you gave me a goal, if I said, well, what's your goal? And I don't want to do this to you, but if I said to you, what's your goal? And you said, well, my goal is X. I said, well, why? You say, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, why? And by the time I get to the seventh why, you'll start crying.
Yeah, I don't want to cry today. So
yeah, I know, but that's true. So you got to keep asking why. Well, I just want to have a lot of money in the bank. Why? Well, I want to be able to take care of my family. Why? Well, because and when I keep asking why, you'll cry, and then now you know. Like, okay, I wanted to have a lot of money in the bank because I thought that was cool. That's a terrible reason why. But I want to take care of my family is a better reason why. Well, why do you want to take care of your family? And it comes out that maybe your family didn't take care of you, and so you're very emotional about that. And now you're but when you get that emotion going, then you keep that emotion in front of you because you're going to want to stop. You're going to want to stop. You're going to have obstacles, COVID-19, recessions, all this, the political environment. You're going to have setbacks and obstacles. And if you don't have a strong enough reason why, you're going to cave. If that makes sense.
That makes great sense. It really does. Let's talk about another why. Why did you start working for your dad as your career?
Well, it was my dad. Okay, so let's just understand that. It was my dad, right? And so I idolized my dad. I was 5 years old, and I would go to the dealership with, 4 or 5 years old. I would go to the dealership with my dad. He always called it the garage. He says, come on, son, we're going up the garage. And so I would go up to the garage, which, as we know, is the dealership. And my dad would have things to do, and I would just sort of hang out and smell the cars and sit in the cars and walk through the shop. And I just loved that whole environment. I just did as a young kid. 5 years old, I'm in first grade. He said, well, what do you want to do when you get bigger? What do you want to do? I wanted to be a car salesman. Now, again, that was because of my dad, but I wanted to be a car salesman. Junior high, car salesman. High school, car salesman. Went to college. I have a college degree. What are you going to do when you get to college? I'm going to sell cars. What? What do you mean you're going to sell cars? Nobody sells cars. What are you talking about? Well, that's what I wanted to do. And so I went to work, and I always worked at the dealership. 74, my dad started the business in 74. I was the first janitor. That's why I talk about being a janitor and I was the best janitor that they ever saw. But anyways, I don't want to be braggadocious, but so I was a janitor. I washed cars, I detailed cars. I worked in the parts department, service department as a service advisor. I sold cars. I worked in what is called finance and insurance, which I'm sure you have an element of that with your business. Getting people loans and whatnot. So I worked there. I worked as a lower level manager, and when my dad died, I was a general sales manager. And so, but back to the question, I just always wanted to do it. I to this day, right now today, I love the car business. I'm retired from the car business, but I love it. I love talking cars. You asked me a question about cars. I love cars. I love cars. I also, by the way, have a 1969 MG. It's called an MGC versus a B. And so this particular car, this has a 6-cylinder motor, so it's a little more powerful, and it's a hardtop. It's not a convertible, right? I guess they did make it in a convertible. This is a hardtop. It looks like a James Bond type car, real wire wheels. It's a full off-frame restoration. The car is literally brand new. and it is old school. When I was buying a car, I said to the fellow, I said, does it have a radio? He says, no. I said, thank you, no radio. And so it's no air conditioning. It has, the air conditioning is rolling down the windows, old school. It's a standard transmission, and I just love it. And I love driving it. I love thinking about it. I love looking at it. So I kind of feel guilty sometimes because I don't drive my 57 Ford enough, and I just like driving this car. So that's going back to that question. I love that car, I really do. But the bottom line is, I love the car business. I love the car business, and I'm sure that the beginning of that was my dad, but I never veered from that, and so here I am today.
Why did you go to college when you could have just went right into the car business?
Well, my father had a collar on my neck with a shock mechanism in it, and so if I didn't go to college, I snapped, right? So no, there was no option in my family. You're going to college. So that was a foregone conclusion. You're going to college. I also was a runner in high school, and so I went to college with the idea in mind of running, and I didn't know it at the time, but I got very, very good at drinking beer, and I met my wife in college and all that. So, you know, college to me, I was in college for 4.5 years, and it was 4.5 years of just pure vacation. It was just, I loved college. It was just fun. So, is it necessary to go to college? No, absolutely not. I have 2 children who went to college and 2 who did not. And they're all 4 of them rock stars. They're brilliant. You know, you cannot go to college and become incredibly successful in life just by being humble and being willing to learn. And so I am learning right now. I'm learning about health because of what I said. So I'm studying every day. Every day. I actually bought a book. I was reading this book called Metabolical, and from that book, Dr. Lustig mentioned this fellow who I've studied before. His name is, I believe it's Raj Patel. Don't hold me to that. But the book is called Full and Starved, I think. Full, but I don't think that's the first part's the right word. But I literally just bought it the other day. And so what he's saying is that we're eating a lot of food, but we're starved of nutrients. And so I find that stuff to be fascinating. If I don't get the right nutrients in my body, I'm going to get ill. So I think it was, no, I'm sorry. I know it now. Stuffed and starved.
Stuffed and starved.
Stuffed and starved. And so, I don't know if you know this or not, but according to my research, donuts are definitely not a health food. Did you know that?
Yeah, I definitely know that. I used to eat too many donuts.
Me too.
I was over 300 pounds at one point in my life, and I had to make a lot of changes to get. It's a work in progress. But
well, you know, but in all due respect, being over 300 pounds is bankruptcy imminent.
Yeah.
Relative to this thing here, and so, and that's not me fat shaming or anything like that. The fact is that if you're over 300 pounds, you're just not going to live as long. These are the statistics. We can't get away from the statistics. This is just the facts of life. Now, I know your grandmother's uncle's best friend's next door neighbor was 400 pounds and lived to be 103. I know that. Smoked 7 packs of cigarettes a day. But the statistical analysis of it is that if you're over 300 pounds, your life will be cut short because it's just that bad for you. So, and that's just me talking. Yeah. So I'm working very hard on my weight. You know, Jim Shorkey's weight. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not qualified to do that. I can't tell this audience what to do. But what I can do is tell you what I am doing. And from my book, Metabolical, there's 3 things that I learned. Just like Mr. Hamilton gave me 10, 3 things. You want to know what they are?
Sure.
1, eat real food. Okay, processed food is not real food. Eat real food. 2, protect my liver. 3, feed my gut biome, which means probiotic and prebiotic foods. And so what am I doing? I'm eating real food, I'm protecting my liver, and I'm feeding my gut. And I do this every single day. And just so you know, and your audience knows, sugar is not real food.
No,
and it's killing us as a society. And so it tastes good, but it's killing us as a society. So that'd be an example of what I'm getting at with Mr. Hamilton. I went to him, he gave me a list. I've read this book with Dr. Lustig called Metabolical, and he gave me a list. And so I have a feeling when I read the new book, Stuffed and Starved, I think I'll probably get some more ideas. And that's really the point. we don't know when we seek expert counsel, we don't know the downstream effect of what's going to happen, because what happens to me at least, when I open the first door of the first step, oftentimes that leads to 2 or 3 more steps, and step number 3 of the more steps might change the whole world for me. And I wouldn't have got there had I not done the first part first, which is to go to Mr. Hamilton, get my list, go to work on a list, and then proceed from there. So I find a lot of times when I'm reading a book, the book leads me to other books, and it's the second book or the third book that really has an impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about your liver, and I believe I read in your book that you stopped drinking in 1994?
1993, December 26, 1993. I have a drinking problem. Drink too much. Arrested for drunk driving 2 times. A lot of reckless behavior. Drink too much. And so, on a whim, and really it was a whim, I decided, I shouldn't say a whim. Self-development. When you're into self-development, self-help, self-improvement, that whole thing, alcohol is going this way, okay, and self-development is going this way. So it became very apparent to me that the alcohol had to go away. And if you're really into self-development, you'll hear the alcohol. It's just a bad thing. So December 25th, 1993, Christmas Day, I'm at my mother-in-law's house. I've got a glass of wine in one hand, and I've got a beer in the other hand. Now get this. So I'm thinking about this idea. And I said to my wife, Amy, I said, tomorrow morning, it's going to make me emotional. I said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days. I'm going to try to not drink for 30 days. Well, she was actually kind of mad at me, like, what are you talking about? I got a beer and a glass of wine. And but I did it, and I did it for 30 days. And then I thought, okay, I've already done this for 30 days. I'm going to try for another 30 days. So I'm into now 60 days. And in a time of between 60 and 90 or 30 and 60, I don't really recall, but I had not drank for that entire period of time. And I'm with Amy and with my children, and we're in the minivan backing out of the driveway, and my daughter Katie says to me, she says, Dad, I'm so proud of you that you're not drinking. She said, it always bothered me. This gets me emotional every time. It always bothered me when you drank. And I'm like, I couldn't even process this. I put the car in park. I'm in the middle of the road, put the car in park. And I turned around and said, Katie, what did you just say? She said, I'm so proud of you that you're not drinking. And she's 12 years old. I'm so proud of you that you're not drinking. It always bothered me when you drank. I said, Katie, I'm so sorry. I never meant to upset you. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I'll tell you what, I promise you, I'll never drink again. And I didn't. And so I had already been on that path, but that doesn't mean I was going to never drink again, right? But I promised Katie that, and I just did it on a whim. But there's the reason why, right? There's the reason why. The reason why it makes you cry. When I talk about that, it gets me emotional. I've talked about it enough times that I can kind of get it under control. But my daughter, Katie, is my oldest daughter. My oldest child, excuse me. I have Katie, and then I have 3 boys, and she means the world to me. And so define what it is you don't want. I don't want to hurt my daughter. Define why you don't want to hurt your daughter. I can give you a million reasons for that. But anyway, so I never drank again, and I won't. It won't happen. I caused my wife more misery over alcohol, so she's another reason why I don't drink. I could see the change in her. God knows where I was going to be, after work. Who knows, right? Because I was a drinker, and so I could see the anxiety drain from her face as we went forward. It was like, how could I ever do that to her again? So I had Katie, I had my wife, and then I met with my dad every day at 8:30 in the morning, every single day, unless he was out of town or I was out of town. We met every day, and we talked a lot about the car business, about where we were going, but we also talked a lot about life. And my dad was he was a very irreverent kind of a guy, and he said, James, he says, I got to tell you, he said, I think all this self-help stuff is a bunch of BS. I got to tell you, I really do. And he said, but you know what, if it keeps my son out of bars, it's my dad, It keeps my son out of bars, I'm all for it. And I thought, wow, now what do I do? So I promised Katie, I promised my wife, and I heard my dad saying what he just said. It's no alcohol. Alcohol doesn't go in here, ever. Won't happen. Not happening. Why? Because my reason why makes me cry. And so there's no issues with it at all. It's just not going to happen.
It's essentially a poison. I do drink still, but I reduce the amount of alcohol I drink, and that's one of the number one reasons I think I was able to lose weight. I think the alcohol was affecting my weight quite a bit.
Let's restate that. It's not essentially a poison. It is a poison. It is a poison. And so there's no question about that. And again, I'm not going to comment any further. I'm not a doctor. I'm a car salesman. But in my mind, it's a poison. And the idea of drinking a little bit of rat poison, you probably will survive that. Doesn't make it good.
Right.
It's a poison. So you might want to. I'm not drinking it. I have a drinking problem. So end of discussion.
Well, I appreciate you sharing with us.
Yeah, it's the truth, man.
You told me no questions are off limits.
No, you ask me any question you want.
If you were to go back in time, what's one change you would make?
Arrogance. Arrogance is the number one enemy of any successful enterprise, whether it be a church, a family, a relationship with some, like my wife, for example, a business. No matter what you look at, okay, in terms of a structure, arrogance is the number one enemy of any successful enterprise. And so at the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, we have three fundamental rules. The number one rule of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group is to love the customer. And I do mean love the customer. Figuratively speaking, hug them, kiss them, take care of them. And I said figuratively speaking. So love the customer, because if we don't love our customers, there's not going to be any customers and our business suffers. The second number one rule is to love the team. And I do mean love the team. Hug them, kiss them. Again, I'm talking figuratively speaking. But really, really take care of our team and love them and help them and train them and just really put them first, top shelf, right? So customers, number one, team, number one. So if we do both of those things, love the customer, love the team, then we get to be really, really, really successful. And this is a proven fact. It's not just Jim Shorkey. It's any business. Love the customer, love the team. You get to be very, very successful. Now, what happens when you get to be successful, that's when the arrogance sets in. We don't need this customer. He's a jerk. She's a bum. This employee is this, that, the other thing. And the business just goes downhill very, very rapidly. So, and by the way, this third rule came about because I was arrogant, and I promised Napoleon Hill, he was deceased, but still I'm speaking to him through his book, Think and Grow Rich. And I promised him that I would never be arrogant again. And that's something I've really, really stuck to. I don't like it. I don't want to be part of it. And so the third rule of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group, almost number one, is to keep it very, very, very humble. And interestingly enough, I found, as in my experience as the guy running the deal, that was the one that got violated the most. And I had to pull people into my office and say, hey, this isn't how we're going to run this. We got to lose the arrogance. And unfortunately, for some people, they just didn't get that, and they had to go. So we defended our customers over the arrogance. We just defended our team over the arrogance. And what I mean by that is that when we have an arrogant person on the team suffers. And so by releasing that person, people are freed up to do a better job, because this person is such a jerk, right? And so we just weren't going to put up with that. If you didn't adhere to those three rules, you could not be part of the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group. Love the customer, love the team, keep it very, very, very humble. And it's interesting also that my kids, when I left, they decided at some point that they were going to change that it was maybe a little too non-2000, whatever that, let's just say 2020, right? So they went through all this process of changing it and researching and studying it and having meetings about meetings and all that kind of stuff. And they just couldn't do anything. They couldn't make it, they couldn't come up with something that was better than that. And so it stuck. And there's this philosophy out there called KISS, keep it simple, smart, right? Keep it simple, smart. And less is more. And so that's a very simple idea. It's very clear cut. It's very obvious. And it drives the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group. And while that's not the only reason that they're so successful, it is a significant reason why they're so successful. As long as they stay with those three things, then they're going to be fine. Just like the three things I just gave you. Eat real food. Eat real food. Protect your liver. And take care of, feed your gut, probiotics and prebiotics. And that's what I'm doing. We'll see. Maybe maybe we'll get together again sometime and just say, holy crap, Jim, you look better than you did the first time. I mean, I'm 64 years old, and I'm working very aggressively on those three things.
I love it. And I'm in the sales business as well. I've been in sales since I was pretty much 11 years old. I had a newspaper
Me too.
business, and I've had moments in my life where I was too arrogant and extremely cocky, and
guilty.
and I've had to remove that from myself. But it's also hard to talk about your successes without bragging, right? So have you found a strategy where it's easier to talk about because you've had tremendous success? How do you talk about that without sounding egotistical or arrogant?
I think it's just gratitude. I think the next component would be, keep it very, very humble, lose the arrogance, but also gratitude. And I just always try to frame it. We are successful. We sell a lot of cars. We make a lot of money. We do a lot of great things. But I always try to frame it with the idea in mind that anybody could have done what I did. Anybody can put these principles into play. And maybe you don't want to be in the car business. I understand that. But what business do you want to be in? What business do you want to be in? And then are you willing to do the things you need to do to move that needle like I did? And if you do what I tell you to do, if you do what Napoleon Hill tells you to do, then you will. And so I think it's one thing to talk about the successes, and it's another thing to be braggadocious. And so I really try to keep that in check, because I don't want to be braggadocious. I think it makes people feel bad, and so I don't want that in my life. So, but the fact is that the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group is 11 dealerships, right? We got 11, yeah.
Yeah, 11 going on 12.
Yeah. And so, it is successful, but it's successful for a reason. And hopefully when we talk about success for a reason, hopefully we can be inspirational versus, demotivating. I would never want to present the Jim Shorkey Family Auto Group as an unattainable goal, because it's not. It absolutely is attainable. And if you want to be in the car business, I can teach you how to be very, very successful in the car business. I know the rules. I know the terminology. I know the details. But if you want to be successful in the real estate business, guess what? I know the rules. I know nothing about real estate. I don't. But do you think I could do okay selling real estate?
Oh yeah, I'd sign you up today.
Exactly, sure you would. So it's just a question of learning these things, right? Just like with the health, I really didn't know the severity of that. I just didn't. But as I read the science, this actually isn't a book, it's a science book, right? And so I am convinced now, real food, protect my liver, and feed my gut. And it's very simple. Do those three things, and I'm going to be way healthier than I would have been had I not done those three things. And guess what? Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. We got to stop. Like fast food, not real food. It's just not. Pizza, not real food. It's what is called adulterated. And so a tomato is real food. Okay? Ketchup is not real food. Matter of fact, most ketchup has high fructose corn syrup in it. Not real food. It's fake food. Now you can get some ketchup that has the right ingredients, and it's not that you can never have processed food, but you got to be careful of how it is processed. But when you see high fructose corn syrup, take it and put it back on the shelf and run, because it's awful for you. It's terrible. It's awful for you. It's awful for the environment. Everything about it. Do your research. High fructose corn syrup is killing us, and it's killing the planet. Fact. Look it up. So I'm not gonna put that on my grass-fed, grass-finished burger today. I'm not gonna put that crap on it. I'm just not. We have ketchup that is very, very healthy ketchup, and that's what I'll do. Mustard's a good choice, and it is processed. So you don't want to sound like I'm double speaking here, but it's a question of how is it processed and what are the ingredients. When you see if you see something you don't know what it is, probably should put it back.
I mean, I'm going to do some more research and try to better myself after the show. Absolutely. What is the best advice you were ever given?
Seek expert counsel. Find somebody who's smarter than you and have a conversation. And that conversation could be one-on-one, like you and I are talking right now. It could be through a book. Like if I wanted to learn from you, I said, well, what's your favorite book ever? You say, well, I have this book here. Why? Why is it your favorite book? Well, tell me more. And so, I'm going to go get that book. I was talking to a very good friend of mine, Dominic Damaski, today. And his mother is suffering from Alzheimer's disease, which, and we were talking about it last night via texting, and I really felt that maybe I was insensitive in what I said. So I actually picked up the phone today and I called Dominic, and I said, hey, I just want to make sure you understand, I didn't mean to come across as being insensitive. And he told me, he said, you didn't, but he was so grateful that I called him. And he wrote a book about his journey with his mom, who was very, very ill to the point of like really not even knowing her own son. That's how bad this thing is. But I'm going to buy his book and I'm going to read his book, because that's going to lock into me this fear of Alzheimer's disease, right? And so people tell me all the time, you shouldn't talk about your fears. Why not? We have built into our bodies the fight or flight response. It is an evolutionary aspect of our body, an engineered aspect of our body, and we have it there for a reason. And so when you're in fight or flight, your body mobilizes around getting away from the danger, right? And so I don't just focus on Alzheimer's disease. I don't, but I do have it as part of my component of thinking, because I don't want that crap. And I understand 50% chance, that's not a good number. So if my wife and I we're pursuing the same goal, and so we're going to be alive at 85, that means either I'm going to have it or she's going to have it. Those are the numbers, right? And I can tell you right now, when it comes to Alzheimer's disease, the caretaker suffers way more than the caretakee, right? And so just think about that, right? They suffer way more because this person becomes completely vegetative to a degree. And so Dominic is suffering with this right now. And especially when it comes, this is mom and dad, but when it comes to a husband and wife, oftentimes the wife will die before the sick person. And now what, right? Because there's so much anxiety and pressure and sadness, and they don't get to move around because they're there all the time. Their time is very constricted. So anyways, I was talking to Dominic Tomasky. He actually wrote a book about his journey in this thing, and so I'm going to get the book, and I'm going to do a video on it. I'm going to read it and I'm going to do a video on it. And I told Dominic that I would do that, and I'm serious about that, because I think it is something we do need to talk about. Not talking about it's not the answer. Like when I was bankruptcy, I'm not going to talk about that. That's negative. Oh, Jim, you're being negative. No, I was going out of business. Negative $55,000 in a bank account, not a good thing. Too much month at the end of the money. So it is something we have to meet head on. So if you want to avoid Alzheimer's disease, the things that you would do to prevent, delay, mitigate Alzheimer's disease, guess what? They also benefit you in preventing, delaying, mitigating cancer and heart disease. It's all the same.
Diabetes.
It's diabetes.
Yeah.
It's all the same. There's no differentiation between those. And so you're going to be covering a lot of ground when you go to work on preventing, delaying, mitigating Alzheimer's disease. And you're going to just live, we have this thing in America today, we talk about lifespan, and we're okay there, but our health span is awful. So how does it make sense? Like in Dominic's case, right? His mother is still living, according to the record book. She's still living, but man, he said this has been going on for 10 years. That's not what I would call. That's not what I want, right? And that's not what Dominic wants either. So he knows I'm talking about this, and he wants me to talk about it. But those 10 years, they're not healthy, happy, terrific years. They're not quality years. They're awful years. And so if you don't want that, then you need to think about it and think it the whole way through. And here's that end goal. Now, how do I get away from that? And we're hardwired as a species to know how to avoid danger. Don't leave the fire. Protect, stay together as a group. These are survival mechanisms, right? And so anyways, I'm a big believer in studying failure, studying lack of success and whatnot, and then working on getting away from that. But I'm also a huge believer, even more so, in studying success. So how do I get to success? How do I get away from a lack of success? If that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, absolutely. One of the problems I think most small business and medium and large size business owners run into is a work-life imbalance. How do you fix that?
Well, I didn't fix it, so that's why I have health issues today. And so when I was running the dealership very successfully, I slept probably 4 to 5 hours a night, and we wore that like a badge of honor. I had no mechanism for reducing stress or mitigating stress, so I was always under the gun, working. I sat all day behind a desk and worked deals, so I wasn't moving enough. My diet, if the guys ordered hot dogs, I had hot dogs. If the guys ordered pizza, I had pizza. Whatever the crap was available, that's what I ate. So poor sleep, poor stress reduction ideas, poor diet, poor physical movement led me to, I had a what is called a asymptomatic heart attack, which I wasn't even aware of. They said that it was if there's such a thing as a minor heart attack, minimal damage after the fact, but it would have been like flu type symptoms. And so, we all have the flu from time to time. Anyways, I had an asymptomatic heart attack. I have peripheral vascular disease. I have AFib. I have all these different things that I believe in my heart of hearts that were a result of the stupid crap that I did, not leading a balanced life. So I did not lead a balanced life. So now, what am I focused on? Number one, sleep. Sleep is my number one top priority. Number two, stress reduction. A big, big priority. If you don't fix your sleep and your stress reduction, you can eat all the broccoli you want. It's not going to matter. Why? Because you're in fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight, guess what happens? Your digestion system shuts down because you don't need it. You're running from a tiger right now, right? So by having a lack of sleep creates stress. Stress creates a lack of sleep. They all work together in this vicious circle. And then you have a tendency to make poor decisions relative to diet, and you're not digesting the food anyways. And then physical movement is also a big factor. And so I didn't do any of that stuff. So now I'm doubling down on that. And because I learned these lessons, I'm all over my kids about it. And they do have great work-life balance. To answer your question, by the way, you answered, I don't know if I clearly answered the question you asked me before about best advice I ever got. I want to be clear about that. It is seek expert counsel.
Yeah.
Find these people. So it could be a book, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a one-on-one type thing. There's all kinds of ways to get this expert counsel. And so right now for my kids, they're all involved in the business and they're not doing what I did. And actually they're doing way better because when you have the right amount of sleep, the right amount of stress reduction, the right diet, the right physical movement, you actually perform better. And so you can get done in 1 hour stuff that maybe took me 3 hours. So they're way more efficient. And then they have the sense of love with that work-balance relationship. So my answer to your question in a long, convoluted way is got to fix it. But I didn't understand it. So once you understand it, it's like maybe when you're in this bad work-life balance, you got to say, is this worth dying over? Is this worth dying over? No. So maybe slow it down a little bit and get on the other stuff that I just mentioned. Work on your sleep, work on your stress reduction, work on your diet, work on your physical movement. And what will happen when you get this going after a period of, probably, day by day, week by week, month by month, I would say at least 6 months, you'll find your efficiency, your cognition gets so much better that you can get stuff done way quicker. And so to that point, if you're cognitively, if you're sleep deprived, you realize that if you're sleep deprived and you drive, that you are worse than a drunk driver.
And 4 to 5 hours a night is sleep deprived.
Absolutely, because what happens is you'll zone out versus if you're drunk, you just won't react as well if you're drunk. I'm not condoning drunk driving, it's a terrible thing, but you'll react slower versus if you're sleep deprived, you won't react at all, and that's where you have these massive collisions or crossing the center line or whatever. So, and also if you're sleep deprived, you also will test as pre-diabetic. It's that bad. And this is according to what I've learned. So in order to have work-life balance, you have to do those. There's actually 6 things. It's sleep, stress reduction, diet, physical movement, growing your tribe, right? I don't have time for that. I gotta work. No, you gotta grow your tribe, and then doing novel things. So even though you're working in the real estate business, what's something novel that you can do? And this to a degree is novel for you, right? You were interviewing strictly real estate people, now you're interviewing this, and it's novel and it makes you think, right? So that kind of novelty is very good for your brain and very good for your body. So it's just learning new things that you didn't know before. So if you do those 6 things, then you're going to be way more efficient on the job, and you may end up making more money, selling more houses, or whatever the case may be, because you're more able to think and act. And even if you're physically tired, you're dragging.
It's funny you say that because I live in a world where I get everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I get 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night. It's what I do. And then when you talk about the driving thing, I've literally driven home a few times and parked my car and then gone, I don't remember how I even got here,
Which that happens if you're not sleep deprived, because it's such a routine thing. But let me tell you something, and you can do what you want with this, but 4 to 6 hours of sleep, bad idea. It's a terrible idea. What you want to do, according to all my research, is set yourself up for 8 hours, and it's hard because But the thing is, there's stuff that we're doing that we don't need to do. I'm sure that's not you, But like, for example, watching TV, it's a waste of time. It doesn't get you anywhere. And so take that TV time and turn it into prime time. And what would that prime time be? Focusing on your sleep. And there's so many things I can tell you about sleep as far as different individual hacks that will get you better sleep, or you can do your own research. But 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night.
My problem is I can't get my brain to shut off. Like that's my biggest problem.
We don't have enough time to talk about that. But you definitely there's things you're doing that you should be doing. Screen time at night would be one. Watching TV at night is screen time, but also it's stimulating. I'd have to look at, when do you stop eating, for example? That you're supposed to stop eating.
8:30, 9 o'clock is when I stop eating.
Too late. What time do you go to bed?
Midnight, 1 o'clock.
Too late. Yeah. So you should be. I stop eating typically I try for 6, typically 6 o'clock, maybe 6:30, sometimes 7 o'clock. But I want to stop eating 3 to 4 hours before my sleep time. Remember, I'm setting myself up for 8 hours, so I want to be sleeping at 10 o'clock. Typically, it's around 10:30. And I have a sleep routine. One of them being I read a book, not an iPad, not a Kindle, a book, and that's how that's part of my sleep routine. My sleep routine, and I typically wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and then I do a meditation, which really is restful. But so if I get to sleep at 10:30, that's an hour and a half plus the 5:30 would be 7 hours. Ideally, I think my number is 7.5 hours. I don't always hit it, but 4 hours, no, never. 6 hours, not happening. It's a bad idea.
I'm making mental notes for sure. When you were in full car mode, okay, when you were working the dealership full time, what did your vacations look like? How often did you go on vacation, and how did you disconnect from the world?
Well, my vacations were part of the deal, and so I would go on a 2-week vacation with my entire family, which I'm actually leaving tomorrow to go on vacation. The same vacation we've done for the past, since my wife and since Amy and I have been married, and so the whole family goes, and that was always very important to me. I said to my kids a long time ago, if we can't do Thanksgiving as a family and get along and really have a good time together, I'll sell the business. I will get rid of this business. It's too important that we have this family unit, and I think you can do both, right? As far as disconnecting from the business, that was a challenge because I was so tuned into it, but I was able to just do my check-ins and then, I would be done. And of course today with the internet and everything, that's definitely a challenge. But as I got older in the business and started to figure things out, I was part of a think tank, and this think tank was a group of automobile dealers from all over the United States of America. Typically there was 20 members, 15 to 20 members, and we would get together and we would compare notes, and that's how I learned a lot about how to improve the business even further. But they were always the high dollar, high class places. And I said to the group, and I said to myself and my team, I said, if I can't take my wife and children, I'm not going to get involved. So we went 3 times a year, and they were usually 4 or 5 day trips, and my wife and my children were always with me, and we even took add-ons as well. And so I just really believed in that, and I didn't always do the best job at it, but I started to understand it, right? So in my world, I have 5 pillars that I call the great life, right? The good life, the great life. First pillar is passion. I want to have great passion for everything I do. Second is health. If I don't have my health, I got nothing. Didn't understand it originally, but now I do. Third is love, and for me, my love pillar is Amy, number 1, my family, number 2, my friends, number 3, you're my friend, my self-love, very important component to this, and then my love of nature. And I believe in my heart that we all belong in nature as often as we can. So I'm out in nature every day. I get out in nature every single day, multiple times throughout the day. The 5th pillar is abundance. I do believe in money. I do believe in having money. I want to have enough money to do the things I want to do. I want to have enough money to do the things I want to do when I want to do them with no worry of having not enough dough. And then the last pillar is joy. And that's my funeral test. And so when I'm in the hole, and my life will be judged by who shows up and what they say. I'm in the hole, they're looking at me and say, this guy was a total jerk, good riddance, not a good life, that's a bad life. Or, hey, you see that guy in that hole there? Everything we have today is a result of what that guy told me 30 years ago. He gave me this advice. I did what he told me to do, and look at where we're at right now. It's because of that guy right there. That's a life of impact. The more people say that, the more successful my life will have been. So it's all about great passion, great health, great love, great abundance, and great joy. It's all 5 together. Now, I also believe in anti-pillars. So my anti-pillars, number 1 is apathy. I don't care. 2 is illness. I'm just not healthy. 3 would be loneliness, because I was such a jerk relative to the love pillar. Now I'm lonely. 4 would be poverty. I don't want any part of that. I just don't. I don't think it's necessary. I think we could all get out of that if we understood the principles around, moving that bar, moving that needle. And then lastly would be sadness. And if the last day of my life on this planet is one of sadness, then I messed up. I want it to be joy. We're all going to die. We're all going to die. We don't get out of this thing alive. It just doesn't work that way, right? So we're all going to die.
Father Time's undefeated.
Exactly. And so what have I done in between birth and death? What's in there that would cause me to say, on my last day on the planet, I did it. I did it, versus what a jerk. And so I think it's very important that we keep in mind what we don't want and have strong reasons why we don't want them. And I think we need to keep in mind what we do want and have strong reasons why we do want them. And of course, the reasons why are going to make us cry. So it's all about those 5 pillars, the good life, and those 5 anti-pillars, the bad life. What do you want? Do you want the good life, or do you want the bad life? Well, it's not going to happen by chance. It's not going to happen by chance. It happens by action. Very, very specific, targeted actions. And that's my belief.
I can tell you're a Zig Ziglar fan. A lot of the same talk of Zig Ziglar. So what are you working on these days?
Well, I'm working on my message, okay, which is we're actually formulating that message, and we're evolving that message. But I was talking to Derek Kelly, who is my very good friend, who has helped me with the message, and we just had this conversation yesterday. It's what a think tank does, and we decided we want to start a movement. We want to start a movement around Rethink You. In order, if your thinking got you to here, right? If you keep that same thinking, you're not going to get out of here. In order to get to up here, you have to rethink it, right? In order for you to lose the weight you lost, you had to rethink, right? Rethink You. And so that's our movement. In addition to that, I already mentioned this, my niece, Hannah Ash, was tragically killed in a boating accident, Labor Day weekend of 2020. Love that kid. She's the type of kid, if she walked in this room right now, she would light the room up. But interestingly enough to that, she was the type of person that when she left the room, it stayed lit up, because she was such an impactful person. So we have this cause called inspiredbyhannah.org. I'm working very, very hard on that. I mean, just behind the scenes with my sister and her husband, Dave Ash, who was like a brother to me, and then their daughter, Jessica Ash, who was Hannah's sister and Hannah's best friend, and they just did everything. Like, they were just really, really tight. And so Jessica and Kathy and Dave are suffering massively. And so I want to help this cause. So the cause is inspiredbyhannah.org. The purpose is number 1, marine safety awareness is 1. If we can save 1 life through this effort, that will be huge to us. And the second aspect of it is empowering women. And I don't get these numbers right. It's either 16 to 28 or 18 to 26, but it's in that range. Hannah was 23. And we actually have a challenge going on right now. I have a challenge going on right now called the $23 Challenge. And we do have to raise money for this cause. It's a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It's the real deal. And so I just have put this challenge out there to get, because Hannah was 23, to get everybody that I can to donate $23 to the cause. And but we also say, hey, if you can donate $1, we're grateful. 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 100, 500. Whatever you can donate based on your belief in this cause is just gratefully accepted by Kathy Ash and Dave Ash and Jessica Ash and Jim Shorkey. And so I'm very passionate about that. I love this kid, love her. And so we don't want her legacy to be she died in a boating accident. We want her legacy to be that she had impact. She had impact. And so what we want to do is we want her to live on through us and everybody that we touch through this idea. And so we really do believe, and I believe this, I really believe this. I'm a strong advocate of the butterfly effect. And so if this conversation causes one person to go to this site and they make a move, so to speak, and but that one person affects another person, another person, another person, how do we know that person number 5 isn't the next president of the United States of America as a result of what she learned in inspiredbyhannah.org. And so that's the idea, is to instigate, to start the butterfly effect. And we just don't know. We don't know. This cause could affect somebody in Japan 10 years from now. We don't know. And that would be a really cool thing. So 2 causes, the Rethink You movement, getting people to rethink themselves, and then inspiredbyhannah.org. And then the blanket to that whole thing is my good friend Chuck Bellino was part of this at the beginning, and he passed away day after Thanksgiving of cancer. And then this has been a really challenging time. So Hannah died Labor Day weekend, Chuck died day after Thanksgiving, my mother died the day after Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
And so, but my mother, 7 children, my siblings, 7 children, and there's a lot of grandchildren, a lot of great-grandchildren, and all that whole family tree, which I really need to write it down so I can speak these numbers without thinking about it. But my mom and dad started this thing. And so by us having Hannah live on through each one of us, we're actually also causing my mom to live on through each one of us as well, because without my mom, without my dad, there is no Hannah. There never would have been. So it's really a neat idea. So I want to call out my mom, I want to call out Chuck Bellino, I want to call out Hannah, and we're going to put this thing together so that everybody is going to live on through what we speak as we go forward from today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's touch on that. Your Rethink You, how would people get involved with Rethink You?
Well, the company or the site, I'm not a technological guy, but it's called resultsfromthinking.com. So it's www.resultsfromthinking.com, and you can just go there, and the Rethink You program is $97. It's very inexpensive, and it walks you through the steps to get you to the good life and to get you away from the bad life. And so it's what it is. It's a workbook program. It's a video program. Chuck Bellino and Steve Gardner, 2 of my very close friends, intro and outro each one of the videos. I'm doing most of the speaking, and just speaking like you and I are speaking right now about how this works. And so it is a really well thought out, well designed program. If somebody does exactly what we're telling them to do for $97, the price of a book almost, right? This book that I'm going to buy from Dominic Damasky is going to be 20 some bucks, right? So $97, you get the whole thing, which is again, videos, workbook. It's very inexpensive, and I ask people all the time, and when we're talking about it, right? Don't ask me what it costs. Don't ask me what it costs. Ask me what it costs if you don't do it. That's the question. So if you do what I tell you to do, what if it's worth $970? What if it's worth $9,700? What if it's worth $9,700,000? Is that possible? You betcha. It absolutely is. It is absolutely possible, because it's all comes from the people that came before me. Napoleon Hill and Wallace Wattles and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Zig Ziglar you mentioned, and Brian Tracy, and all these people, these pillars that gave all this great advice, and we're taking all that advice and condensing it into this easy to follow, not easy to do, easy to follow program. If you do what we tell you to do, you're going to knock it out of the park. I guarantee it, because it's that good.
Do you have a group discount if I wanted to buy it for my whole brokerage?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I will absolutely, positively take care of you. You just asked me the first question to stump me. I wasn't prepared for that one, but now, yeah, absolutely. I will make it. I will make you a special deal for sure, okay. Positively.
Yeah, because I'm interested. I actually was going to tell my list of things to do this week to sign up for your $97, and then that Hannah's website is. It's
inspiredbyhannah.org.
Inspired by Hannah.
And if you just type that in, you click it on, boom, right to the site.
And it's Hannah with 2 N's and an H, right?
It's HANNAH. Inspired by Hannah, all small casing.org.
And if you're not a woman in those age brackets, then the best thing you can do to get involved would be to go donate.
Yes, exactly, and get your daughter involved, get your friends involved in terms of that bracket. And the only reason that they wanted to get it very narrow, because if we try to be all things to all people, it's a disaster. You need to sell real estate, and that's your thing, right? And when you get involved with too many other ancillary things, you take away from the real estate business. And it's actually, if I was to give you advice on business, I would say work on your business until it is maximized, or at least 95% maximized, and then go to other venues. But the fact is that this idea of multiple streams of income is a very slippery slope, because when you take your eye off the ball of a business that's not fully matured and fully maximized, well, when you take your eye off the business suffers. So now you're making money over here with your multiple streams of income, but over here you're suffering. And so you end up maybe losing it all. So if you focus on your business only, the real estate business that is, then, and this is what people aren't telling you this, but the fact is that it costs you nothing to focus on your business and improve your business. The idea of multiple streams of income sounds very sexy, right? And it just automatically works, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you do this, you're going to make $1 zillion. It's automatically going to work. Well, guess what? That's not reality. The fact is that if you look it up, I don't know the numbers now, but the vast majority of startups fail within the first year. So you have this business, you're doing well, and you're going to start this other source of income. If it fails, you can lose everything. And so that's not to say that you don't pursue other multiple streams of income, but make sure the present stream of income is stable. And here's an example of good accounting, right? You should be looking at, you should take your monthly expenses in your business. So whatever that is, 50 grand, 100 grand, I don't know. But whatever that number is, that's what it costs you to run your business. You should have cash on hand, minimum 6 months, okay? It's called working capital, and preferably 12 months. And if you have 12 months of working capital to cover your expenses in the event of some kind of a disaster, then you are what is called bulletproof. You're financially bulletproof. And so oftentimes people don't have enough dough in the business, and then they go out doing other stuff, and they're taking around the ball, and the dough drops. And next thing you know, they're in trouble. So there's a thing called working capital, a day supply of working capital. And I would say bare minimum 6 months. I prefer 12 months, because you become very, very solid. And then you can say, well, okay, I'm going to go do this extra source of income, but now my business is stable that I can take a few hits over here and I'm not going to go under, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So that would be advice I would give you. I would be very cautious of the multiple streams of income. From the point of view, people are always selling that crap, but businesses do fail. It sounds great, right? Oh, wow.
Think of how many failed last year during the pandemic.
Absolutely, because they weren't. And by the way, if you failed during the pandemic, I'm sorry to tell you this, it's because two things. You weren't ready. If you failed, so my question to you directly, if you failed, was, did you have 6 months of working capital on hand when COVID-19 hit? That would be question number one. Not you, but to this person who failed. The second question I would ask this person who failed is, did you execute what is called a pivot? A pivot is, so I have this business, but the external circumstances shifted, a la COVID-19. And what did you do different as a result of COVID-19 to get yourself through this thing? So many people sat on their hands. So many people went home and played video games. So many people went around complaining and moaning and all that. When in fact, the people that pivoted, they ended up making a new source of income within their business, and then the thing bounced back, and guess what? They kept the new source of business, and then the old business came back, so they had now two. And so they actually ended up better off after COVID than before COVID, the ones that number one, executed that pivot and had enough cash on hand to survive the whole pandemic. But and I'm not making fun of COVID-19, I'm not disparaging it, but the fact is, you're too little. You're too little. What could you do to get rid of COVID-19? So it's a circumstance, you can't do anything to change it, so why not make the best of it? Why not do your best? Why not work on self-improvement during COVID-19? You don't need to be watching TV all day long. You should have been working on self-improvement. Maybe developing a new career. People tell me, different people told me, well, there's no jobs out there. What? Yes, there are.
There's a hiring sign everywhere.
Everywhere you go. I remember a guy was telling me there's no jobs out there. I literally left him, went to the grocery store. There were 7 signs in the grocery store that they were hiring this and hiring all these. So that's just a bunch of bullcrap. There are jobs out there, and quite frankly, if your business is suffering, why aren't you out getting a second job? Why aren't you delivering pizzas? I mean, your business is suffering. You weren't ready, but the pivot would be, well, I'm going to bring in more money via this vehicle or that vehicle, or I'm going to alter my business. Like these restaurants, they started doing this, takeout thing, and the ones that really got good at it, and the delivery service and all that, they made money. Yeah. And the ones that sat on their hands, gone.
Feel sorry for yourself, and it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, it is. There's no question.
Well, hey, I thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
I really
man.
appreciate it.
I'm grateful.
This is an awesome talk, and I learned so much, and I hope we can keep in communication and everything.
Well, that's going to be up to you, man. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I love talking. I love talking about this stuff. I'm very passionate about it. Hopefully you gathered that. And I really do believe in here, in this guy here, I believe that anybody could do what I did. I really believe that. And that's my message. Anybody could do what I did. This is not an impossible situation. It may be that you're not as talented as I am, or I'm not as talented as you are. That just means that it might take me longer to get to where I want to get to, or it might take you longer to get to where you want to get to. But if you stick to it and you run the grind every day with persistence, you will get there. I take a year, you take 2 years. You take 6 months, I take 5 years. Either way, the fact is you're going to be doing something. You're going to be doing something, right? It's COVID-19. You're going to be doing something. Why not do something productive? Why not do something that makes you better? I mean, during that whole pandemic, how many people went out and developed a new career because their old career appeared to be going away? And very few. But that was an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
We were getting this, I didn't get any money, but the people were getting money from the government. So let's go out and buy some alcohol. No, let's go out and buy a training course.
Yeah, I mean, how many people got life-changing money for free and did nothing with it? They
At a party.
They could have went out and learned something, taken a class. And,
Absolutely. Make your downtime prime time. Yeah, you can watch TV for 4 hours a night. Is that serving you? People tell me it relaxes them. Actually, it doesn't. It's not true. It's screen time at night. When you're at night, when you look at the lights up there at night, guess what you're telling these guys here? You're saying they don't know. They don't know. You're telling these guys here it's time to wake up. What are you supposed to be doing?
Sleeping.
Time to wake up. What happens when it's time to wake up? Cortisol goes up, melatonin drops. It's time to wake up. So there's some very simple. Look it up. How can I improve my sleep? Look it up, and you'll see the list. Say, okay, number 1, not doing that. Number 2, not doing that. I'm doing number 10. Okay, well that's 1 out of 10. You're probably not going to sleep real well. So there's probably a lot of mistakes you're making relative to your sleep. That once you get those dialed in, example would be blue blockers. $23 on Amazon. $20, $25, whatever. You put these on at night, and they block out that, right? And they make you tired.
Blue blockers.
They're called blue blockers. Yeah. Look it up. I know this stuff. I've studied this stuff, man. All right.
Thanks so much, Jim.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Stop it.
We're done.